The smell of sage and dust filled Marcus Chen's nostrils as he pulled up to his grandfather's abandoned hangar. The setting sun painted Colorado's Front Range in brilliant oranges and purples, casting long shadows across the cracked concrete of the old airfield. After 15 years of neglect, the hangar stood as a testament to broken dreams. His grandfather's aviation business had died with him, leaving behind this hulking metal shelf filled with memories and spare parts. Marcus hadn't planned to visit today, but the power bill had shown unusual spikes over the past month. He dismissed it as faulty wiring at first, but when the latest bill arrived with numbers that made his eyes water, he knew he had to investigate. The hangar's main door groaned in protest as he forced it open just enough to slip inside. Motion-activated lights flickered reluctantly to life, revealing a graveyard of aircraft parts, tool benches, and dust-covered tarps. The familiar scent of oil and metal brought back memories of summer days spent watching his grandfather repair small planes, learning about wing configurations and engine types. Something was different, though. Among the expected smells was an odd, ozone-like scent, sharp and electric. And the dust patterns on the floor weren't right. There were clear paths swept through the gray coating, as if someone had been moving around regularly. "Hello?" Marcus called out, his voice echoing off the metal walls. "Anyone here?" A crash from the back office made him jump. Marcus grabbed a wrench from a nearby workbench and approached slowly, his heart pounding. The office door was ajar, pale blue light seeping through the gap. "I'm calling the police," he announced, trying to keep his voice steady. "You'd better come out now." The blue light intensified, and a sound like humming crystals filled the air. Marcus pushed the door open, wrench raised, and froze. Hovering above his grandfather's old desk was what looked like a holographic display, showing star charts and diagrams he couldn't begin to understand. But that wasn't what made his jaw drop. Standing, or rather, floating, beside the display was a being that defied explanation. It was roughly humanoid, but that's where the similarities to humans ended. Its body seemed to be made of overlapping plates of something like crystal or metal, but organic, shifting and flowing like liquid mercury. Where a human would have eyes, it had 3 geometric shapes that emitted soft pulses of light in patterns. No mouth was visible, but markings along what might be its neck rippled with bioluminescence. The being made a sound like wind chimes in a storm, and the holographic display vanished. It backed away from Marcus, its crystalline body shifting colors from silver to a defensive deep blue. Marcus lowered the wrench slowly. "I'm not. I won't hurt you," he said, fighting against his instinct to run. Are you using the power for that display?" The being's geometric eyes pulsed in what might have been surprise. It made another chiming sound, and suddenly, words appeared in the air between them, formed from floating points of light. "Apologies for power usage. Needed for repairs. Can compensate." Marcus blinked several times, wondering if he'd finally cracked under the pressure of managing his grandfather's estate. But no, the alien, because what else could it be, was still there, waiting for his response. "Repairs?" he managed to ask. "Emergency landing. Vessel damaged. Chose isolated structure for repairs. Your power infrastructure compatible." As if to demonstrate, the being gestured to the corner of the office. There, partially hidden behind filing cabinets, was what looked like a piece of the night sky had been folded into a geometric shape. It was clearly damaged, with what looked like burns along one side. That's your ship. Emergency pod. Main vessel destroyed. Pursuing forces believed me eliminated. Requesting temporary sanctuary." The words hung in the air, along with the weight of the moment. Marcus realized he was standing at a crossroads of cosmic proportions. He could call the authorities, cause an international incident, maybe even start an interstellar war. Or, "I'm Marcus," he said, setting the wrench down on the desk. "And I think we can work something out about the power bill." The being's colors shifted to a warmer gold, and the light words formed again. Designation ZYX 427. You may call me 7. Gratitude, Marcus. As Marcus pulled up his grandfather's old office chair and sat down, he had a feeling his life was about to become far more interesting than managing an abandoned hangar in Colorado. So, 7, he said, want to tell me who's chasing you and why? The alien's crystalline form shimmered, and the holographic display reappeared, this time showing what looked like a battle among the stars. Marcus settled in for what promised to be quite a story. 3 days after discovering 7, Marcus woke to the sound of helicopters. The rhythmic thump of rotor blades cut through the pre-dawn silence, far too close to be routine military exercises from the nearby Air Force Base. He was out of bed and pulling on his boots before his mind fully processed what the sound might mean. His phone buzzed, a proximity alert from the security system he'd hastily installed around the hangar. Multiple vehicles were approaching from the main road. Marcus grabbed his emergency bag and car keys, his heart racing as he pulled up the camera feed on his phone. 3 black SUVs and what looked like a mobile command unit were making their way down the access road, their headlights cutting through the morning fog. He texted 7 using the secure communication system they jury-rigged from a modified tablet, company coming. Initiate Echo Protocol. The response was immediate, acknowledged. Quantum signature masked. Awaiting coordinates. Marcus slipped out his back door and into his restored 1967 Chevrolet Impala, a car chosen for both its classic appeal and its complete lack of modern, trackable electronics. As he started the engine, he recalled the conversation that had led to this moment. 7 had explained that their pursuers weren't just any alien faction, they were the Obsidian Conclave, a group that believed emerging civilizations like humanity should be contained until they proved themselves worthy of joining the galactic community. But 7's people, the Luminari, believed in open contact and peaceful cooperation with developing worlds. The information 7 carried could expose the Conclave's secret operations on Earth, operations that violated dozens of interstellar treaties. Which explained the helicopters and government vehicles now converging on the hangar. The Conclave had infiltrators in human governments, using their influence to maintain humanity's isolation. Marcus took back roads toward the rendezvous point, an abandoned mining complex in the mountains. In his rearview mirror, he saw flashes of light at the hangar, 7 implementing their escape plan. The aliens' emergency pod would release a burst of quantum static, masking their actual departure and hopefully buying them time. His phone buzzed again. Not 7 this time, but Dr. Sarah Martinez, his old friend from graduate school, they're here at the university too. Asking about your grandfather's research. Be careful. Marcus's grip tightened on the steering wheel. His grandfather's obsession with unusual atmospheric phenomena made more sense now, he must have detected signs of alien activity years ago. Had he known about the Conclave? About the Luminari? The old man had taken many secrets to his grave. A flash of silver in his peripheral vision made him slam on the brakes. 7's crystalline form materialized in the passenger seat, their color shifting to match the car's interior. Pursuit vehicles detected. Aerial surveillance active. Recommend alternate route. Already on it, Marcus said, turning down a logging road. But we need to talk about Sarah's message. They're at the university, 7. They know about my grandfather. 7's geometric eyes pulsed rapidly, their color deepening to a troubled indigo. Possibility, your grandfather discovered Conclave presence. Explains choice of hangar location for emergency landing. Quantum resonance signatures matched. You mean you chose my hangar because? Detected remnants of Luminari technology. Your grandfather had contact with my people. The revelation hit Marcus like a physical blow. All those nights he'd spent in the hangar as a child, watching his grandfather work on mysterious projects he'd never fully explained. The strange instruments. The coded journals. It hadn't just been the ramblings of an eccentric aviator, it had been first contact. A spotlight suddenly illuminated the car from above. The helicopter had found them. Multiple vehicles converging. Detection inevitable. Marcus pulled off onto a barely visible trail between the trees. Not if we use what my grandfather left us. 7. Remember those strange modifications in the hangar's back room? The ones you said had traces of luminary tech. 7's form brightened with understanding. The quantum beacon. But activation could alert conclave forces across the sector. Or it could alert your people. Marcus pulled out his grandfather's old pocket watch, the one he'd always insisted would point the way home when the time was right. Inside, beneath the watch face, was a crystal that pulsed with the same kind of light as 7's body. He wasn't just making contact. He was building a backup plan. 7's geometric patterns shifted rapidly, performing calculations. Risk assessment, acceptable. Quantum beacon activation requires luminary biosignature and human DNA. Marcus smiled grimly as he pulled off the road, concealing the Impala behind a stand of dense pines. Good thing we have both. Let's show the conclave why humans and luminary working together is their worst nightmare. Above them, the helicopter's searchlight swept back and forth through the trees as more vehicles approached on the main road. Marcus and 7 had only minutes to activate a device that could change the course of human-alien relations forever, assuming his grandfather's decades-old plan actually worked. The real question was, what would answer their call? The quantum beacon pulsed with increasing intensity as Marcus held his grandfather's watch against 7's crystalline form. The woods around them lit up with rippling waves of aurora-like light, and for a moment, Marcus feared they'd made a terrible mistake. They were now visible for miles around. But before the helicopter could zero in on their location, reality itself seemed to fold. A shimmering portal appeared between two ancient pine trees, and a voice called out, "In here." Quickly. Marcus hesitated for a split second, but the sound of approaching vehicles made the decision for him. He grabbed his bag and ran toward the portal, 7 flowing beside him like liquid starlight. As they passed through the threshold, the world shifted and twisted, and they emerged into what looked like an underground facility carved from raw crystal. "Welcome to Haven Station," said a tall woman with close-cropped silver hair and eyes that seemed to shift color like 7's form. "I'm Director Chen. And yes, Marcus, we knew your grandfather well." Marcus steadied himself against a crystal wall, his mind reeling. "Chen. Your grandfather's sister, yes. Though I haven't used the name Chen in decades." She turned to 7, speaking in the same crystalline tones Marcus had first heard from the alien. 7's response was immediate, their form brightening with recognition. "Director Chen. Luminary honorary status confirmed. Grandfather's research now contextual." The director led them deeper into the facility, passing other humans working alongside beings similar to 7, though each luminary had distinct geometric patterns and color schemes. Holographic displays filled the air with cascading data, and in one room, Marcus saw what appeared to be a map of the galaxy with thousands of glowing points. "Your grandfather wasn't just making contact, Marcus. He was part of a decades-long operation to prepare humanity for the truth." Director Chen stopped at a massive circular chamber. "This is the hub. We monitor conclave activity across Earth and coordinate with other Haven stations worldwide." "How many stations are there?" Marcus asked, watching as humans and luminary worked in seamless coordination around the hub. "Enough to make a difference," she replied cryptically. "But not enough to stop what's coming without the data 7 carries." 7 moved forward, their form interfacing with a central crystal pillar. Immediately, the hub's displays changed, showing what looked like massive fleet movements throughout the solar system. Conclave mobilization greater than estimated. Invasion timeline accelerated. Dr. Sarah Martinez stepped out from behind a bank of crystal computers, her familiar face a welcome sight. "That's why they came to the university. They're eliminating anyone who might help humanity prepare or resist." The Conclave believes isolation is protection, Director Chen explained. They've done this to dozens of emerging civilizations, using their influence to prevent contact until they deem a species ready, by their standards, of course. And those standards are impossible to meet, Sarah added bitterly. They move the goalposts, create artificial obstacles, even engineer conflicts to prove societies aren't ready for galactic civilization. Marcus watched as Seven displayed more data, showing centuries of Conclave manipulation across Earth. Wars that could have been prevented. Diseases that could have been cured. Technologies suppressed. All to keep humanity safely contained. Your grandfather discovered their interference decades ago, Director Chen continued. He and others like him around the world began working with Luminary refugees to build this network. Haven stations are humanity's insurance policy, proof that we can work alongside other species as equals. An alarm suddenly blared through the facility. New data points appeared on the hub's displays, showing multiple breaches of Earth's outer defense grid. Conclave capital ships detected. Estimated time to Earth orbit, 72 hours. They're not coming to contain us anymore, Sarah said, her face pale. They're coming to eliminate the threat we represent. A human Luminary alliance is their worst nightmare, proof their entire philosophy is wrong. Director Chen's eyes hardened. Then we'll give them something worse than nightmares. Marcus, your grandfather left something else for you, something even I couldn't access. Seven's data confirms what we suspected, the Conclave ships use quantum-locked systems to prevent infiltration. Let me guess, Marcus said, pulling out the pocket watch. Grandfather found a way around that? Better. The director smiled. He and his Luminary partners developed a way to turn their quantum locking against them. But the key? She gestured to the watch. Needs both human and Luminary input to work, Marcus finished, looking at Seven. Just like the beacon. Seven's geometric patterns shifted in what Marcus had come to recognize as their version of a smile. Quantum resonance patterns aligned. Grandfather's work innovative. Unprecedented. We have 3 days, Director Chen said, to upgrade every Haven station with your grandfather's quantum key technology. 3 days to prepare humanity's first line of defense against an alien invasion. And 3 days to prove that the future belongs to those who work together, not those who hide in isolation. Marcus looked around the hub, at humans and Luminary working side by side, at the product of his grandfather's real life's work, at Seven's steadfast presence beside him, and felt a surge of determination. Then we better get started, he said, opening the watch as Seven's crystalline form began to pulse with matching energy. Show me what else you built down here, Aunt Chen. And let's make sure the Conclave regrets underestimating human ingenuity. Above them, the hub's displays tracked the approaching Conclave fleet. The countdown to invasion had begun, but this time, Earth wouldn't face it alone. Time moved differently in Haven Station. While the world above counted down to invasion, Marcus and Seven worked tirelessly with the Resistance to implement his grandfather's quantum key technology. The vast underground facility hummed with activity as humans and Luminary raced against the clock. The quantum resonance is stable, Sarah announced, monitoring the energy readings from their latest test. Marcus, your grandfather's calculations were perfect. The key not only bypasses Conclave security, it completely reverses their quantum locking protocols. Seven's crystalline form shifted through shades of excited gold as they interfaced with the station's systems. Confirmation, quantum key successfully transmitted to 17 Haven stations globally. Implementation at 64% and rising. But their progress hadn't gone unnoticed. Above ground, Conclave agents had stepped up their efforts to locate the Resistance. Reports streamed in of raids on suspected Haven station locations, of disappearances and close calls. The enemy knew they were running out of time to contain the threat. Director Chen strode into the lab, her expression grim. We've lost contact with Haven Shanghai. And our deep space arrays just picked up something troubling. She gestured, and the lab's holographic displays shifted to show the approaching conclave fleet. They're not just sending ships. They're bringing a nullifier. The word sent a ripple of fear through the luminari in the room. Seven's form darkened to a deep, troubled blue. Nullifier designation, Omega-class weapon. Designed to sever quantum connections across planetary scale. Will disable all advanced technology, including human infrastructure. They're going to send Earth back to the Stone Age, Sarah whispered. Hospitals, power grids, communications, everything will fail. Marcus studied the quantum key, his grandfather's watch pulsing softly in his hand. Can we use the key against the nullifier? Theoretically, Director Chen said, but we'd need to get close enough to interface with its core systems. And the conclave will have it heavily protected. Then we need a diversion, Marcus said. Something big enough to distract their entire fleet. He turned to Seven. You said your people have been monitoring Earth. How many luminari ships are hidden in the outer solar system? Seven's geometric patterns whirled with calculation. Current luminari presence, 47 vessels. Insufficient for direct confrontation with conclave fleet. We don't need to confront them directly, Marcus said, an idea forming. We just need to make them think we're going to. He pulled up the facility's star charts, pointing to the asteroid belt. The Haven stations weren't my grandfather's only project, were they, Aunt Chen? The director's color-shifting eyes sparkled with understanding. No. Project Mirror was his masterpiece, a network of quantum-enhanced satellites hidden throughout the asteroid belt. We never activated them because we lacked the power source. But now we have something better. Marcus looked at Seven. We have you. All of you. Seven's form brightened as they grasped the plan. Luminary energy signatures, amplified through quantum network, would create appearance of massive fleet. A phantom armada, Sarah breathed. The conclave would have to split their forces to deal with the perceived threat. Giving us a shot at the nullifier, Marcus finished. But we'd need every luminary in the Haven network to power it. The energy drain would leave the stations vulnerable. Director Chen's expression hardened with resolve. We'll evacuate all non-essential personnel to the backup facilities. This was always meant to be humanity's last line of defense. If we have to sacrifice the stations to save Earth, so be it. Alerts suddenly flashed across the displays. Multiple Haven stations were reporting conclave forces converging on their positions. The enemy had found them. Time to nullifier deployment, 31 hours. Conclave ground forces mobilizing worldwide. They're trying to take out the stations before we can implement the quantum key network, Sarah said, fingers flying over the crystal controls. We're losing connections to Haven stations in Europe and Asia. Marcus gripped his grandfather's watch, feeling the weight of the moment. Everything had led to this, his grandfather's decades of preparation, Seven's desperate flight to Earth, the alliance between humans and luminari. They had one shot to prove humanity's worth not just to the conclave, but to the galaxy. Seven, he said, can you send an emergency transmission to every luminari ship in the system? We need them in position when we activate Project Mirror. Affirmative. But Marcus. Energy requirements may exceed safe parameters for luminari physiology. You mean it could kill you? All of you? Seven's form pulsed with quiet determination. Acceptable risk. Earth's potential worth preserving. Grandfather believed this. We believe this. Director Chen placed a hand on Marcus's shoulder. Your grandfather used to say that the measure of a civilization isn't its technology or its achievements. It's the friends it's willing to die for. Around them, the Haven station shuddered as the first conclave forces began their assault on the surface. They were out of time. Send the transmission, Marcus said, opening the watch as its crystal began to pulse in harmony with Seven's form. Let's show the Conclave what humanity and its allies can do when we stand together. Above them, the quantum key network hummed to life, and in the asteroid belt, thousands of dormant satellites waited to create an illusion that would change the course of human history, assuming they lived long enough to activate them. The assault on Haven Station intensified as Marcus, 7, and their team made final preparations. Above ground, Conclave forces hammered at the facility's defenses while their fleet approached Earth with the nullifier. But in the asteroid belt, something extraordinary was happening. 47 Luminari ships took position among the hidden satellites of Project Mirror. As each vessel synchronized with the quantum network, their energy signatures were amplified and reflected thousands of times, creating the illusion of an armada large enough to overwhelm even the Conclave fleet. In Haven Station's hub, Seven's crystalline form pulsed with the combined effort of every Luminari on Earth as they powered the massive deception. Mirror network at 94% capacity. Phantom fleet signatures stabilizing. Conclave fleet is responding, Sarah announced, watching the tactical displays. They're splitting their forces, 2/3 diverting to intercept the Phantom Armada. That's our window, Director Chen said. Marcus, the quantum key is fully integrated. Are you ready? Marcus looked at Seven, whose form had dimmed considerably from the energy drain. Are you sure you can maintain the mirror network if we leave? Affirmative. Luminari life force tied to quantum resonance. As long as one of US functions, network remains active. The unspoken truth hung heavy in the air, maintaining the deception might kill them all. But it was the only way to get the Conclave to split their forces and give Earth a fighting chance. Director Chen led them to what looked like a modified version of Seven's emergency pod. Your grandfather designed this specifically to penetrate Conclave quantum-locked systems. It will get you close to the nullifier, but after that. We improvise, Marcus finished, climbing in alongside Seven, whose weakened form still managed to interface with the pod systems. The launch was chaos. As the pod shot up through Haven Station's emergency tunnel, they caught glimpses of the battle raging above. Conclave ground forces exchanged fire with hidden defense turrets while their ships filled the sky. But the majority of their fleet was indeed pulling away, racing to confront a phantom armada that existed only as quantum echoes among the asteroids. Nullifier vessel detected. Minimal escort due to fleet diversion. The massive ship came into view as they broke atmosphere, a dark, geometrically perfect sphere that seemed to absorb light rather than reflect it. Around it, space itself appeared distorted, a visual representation of the quantum severing field it was preparing to unleash. Ready with the quantum key? Marcus asked, gripping his grandfather's watch. Affirmative. But Marcus. Probability of survival once quantum field breached, 17%. Marcus smiled grimly. Better odds than we had when you crashed into my hangar. They accelerated toward the nullifier, their small pod barely registering on its defenses thanks to the quantum key's masking effect. The closer they got, the more reality seemed to warp around them. Warning signals flashed as the pod systems began to fail. Now, 7. Marcus pressed the watch against Seven's crystalline form just as they breached the nullifier's quantum field. For a moment, everything stopped, time, space, thought itself seemed to freeze in the grip of impossible forces. Then the quantum key activated. The technology that Seven's people had helped Marcus's grandfather perfect did more than just bypass the Conclave's defenses. It inverted them. The nullifier's reality-warping field collapsed in on itself, its own power turning inward in a cascade of quantum feedback. Through failing sensors, they watched as the massive sphere began to crack, lines of light spreading across its surface like a hatching egg. But they weren't done yet. Uploading evidence of Conclave violations now. Transmitting to all galactic frequencies. Seven's weakened form pushed out every bit of data they had carried, every proof of the Conclave's illegal manipulation of developing worlds. The nullifier, in its death throes, became a broadcast tower, its quantum field spreading the truth to every corner of inhabited space. Their pod, systems fried by the quantum backlash, began to tumble back toward Earth. Marcus reached for Seven's dimming form. "Stay with me." "We did it." "We." A new light filled their cabin. Through the pod's cracking viewport, Marcus saw ships appearing, not phantom reflections this time, but real vessels of designs he'd never seen before. The cavalry had finally arrived. Galactic Council forces detected. Response time, unprecedented. They were waiting for proof. The Conclave fleet, already scattered by the Phantom Armada, found themselves surrounded by the combined forces of multiple galactic civilizations. The game of manipulation and isolation was over. Their pod was caught in a tractor beam, stabilized by one of the new arrivals. Through the quantum communications network that still hummed with luminary energy, they heard Director Chen's voice. "Haven network status, 7 stations lost, 13 damaged, but 33 intact. The Luminari sustained heavy casualties but most will recover. And Marcus, your grandfather would be proud." As they were brought aboard what turned out to be a Galactic Council medical ship, Marcus held on to Seven's slowly brightening form. Around Earth, the combined fleets of multiple civilizations had contained the Conclave forces. The truth was out, and humanity had proven itself not through isolation and testing, but through cooperation and sacrifice. Weeks later, Marcus stood in his grandfather's restored hangar, now an official contact point between Earth and the galactic community. Seven, fully recovered, stood beside him as they watched ships of various civilizations come and go freely through Earth's atmosphere. "Your grandfather's final message decoded from quantum key, the stars were never meant to be walls between us." Marcus smiled, looking up at the sky that no longer represented a barrier, but a bridge. He was right. They were meant to light the way home, for all of us. Around the world, Haven stations emerged from hiding to become centers of cultural exchange and technological cooperation. Earth took its place in the galactic community not as a primitive world to be contained, but as a symbol of what was possible when different species worked together. And in a small hangar in Colorado, where it had all begun, a quantum beacon still pulsed softly, welcoming visitors from across the stars to humanity's home.